I'm here with the new bass player, Lonny Eagleton from Black Veil Brides. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
So, what's it like to be a part of Black Veil Brides?
Obviously it's very cool to be a part of a band with such a history behind it. They've sold like hundreds of thousands of albums. They've had songs placed in video games, blockbuster movies, a gold single. A pretty impressive resume. So to be a part of a band like that is definitely a dream come true for me. And I really love the camaraderie of being in a band, having brothers to look out for you. And we just had our first show in Mexico about a month ago. That was my first show in the band, and it went extremely well. And lots of momentum coming off that, and we're excited to hit the road and take it on tour whenever we can.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's it like going from being a member of the Black Veil Brides Army to now performing for them? Like, it must be a cool feeling to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, So, for those of you who don't know, I was a longtime fan of the band prior to joining as the new member. And in that time, I had attended several concerts as a fan, bought merchandise, listened to the songs, religiously for years, and I know all the lyrics. So when I got asked to replace an old member as the new bassist, I was just beyond excited. And I just kept thinking to all those times that I had been a fan at a concert or, listening to the albums, and to now be a part of the band is pretty amazing, and it's a feeling I really can't describe.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. So before I go any further, I want to bring up back in 2014, Black Veil Brides did a show and someone was chirping Andy in the crowd. And I talked to you this prior. You said you were there in the audience. Like, how did that go there?
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy story. So it was, what did you say, 2014?
Yeah.
It was something like that. So Black Veil Brides were performing in Vancouver at the Vogue Theatre. And I decided to go check out the show, And as a fan in the audience, there was a guy standing next to me. I was on the floor pretty close to the front. And there was a guy standing next to me. He was just heckling the band, like just cursing at Andy and calling the names for God knows why. And he was very annoying. And I'm like, man, this guy is such an idiot. And then I guess Andy heard him, the singer. And Andy starts like calling out the guy. He's like, yo, why are you being such an ass towards us? And one thing escalated to another. Andy eventually jumped into the crowd to try and fight this guy. And since I was standing so close to this idiot, Andy almost landed on me when he jumped into the crowd. And the fight never ended up happening because security broke it off. But, here we are like 5 years later or whatever it is.
And does he know this story? Have you told?
Yeah, actually, It was when the first day I met Andy. It was one of the things that I brought up. I was like, oh, by the way, I was at that Vancouver show where that fight almost happened, and Andy's like, oh man, that show's like legendary. We talk about it all the time, and it was one of the first things we discussed. But yeah, it's just so funny that 5 years later, now him and I are good friends. Andy and I, not the guy from the show. Just want to be clear on that. Now we're playing music together. So, it's a small world, and sometimes it's funny how things work out.
Yeah, that's crazy how that worked out. And yeah, going from being there to experience that to now being able to be in the band and talk about stuff like that must be pretty cool. So when you did your first show, when you're getting ready to go on stage, how did it feel when you were preparing for your Mexico show there?
Yeah, that show in Mexico was awesome. It was my first time performing in Mexico, which was cool enough. But on top of that, it was my first time ever performing with Black Veil Brides. So that's just something I never even considered would happen. If I had known a few years ago that I'd be a member of Black Veil Brides, I would have just thought I was dreaming. But yeah, that first show was awesome, and I did spend a lot of time preparing. I wanted to make sure I did a good job. I practiced the songs about 8 hours a day for a month straight, just making sure I had all the bass lines locked down, all the vocal harmonies. I wanted to be comfortable, and I wanted all the music to be second nature so that I wouldn't mess up. And luckily things went well. Everyone was really happy with it, and I'm still on such a high from that night.
Yeah. So before you got ready to go on stage for that show, did you have any pre-show warm-ups that got you ready to go on?
I don't really have any pre-show rituals myself. I do remember being a little nervous, and I remember calling my wife Rita right before we went on, And I just said, hey, we're about to go on. And she's like, oh, you'll do fine. And just hearing her say that made me feel okay.
Yeah.
Apart from that, one thing that I do enjoy about Black Veil Brides is that the whole entire band warms up together in the dressing room before the show. So we have guitar amps there, the drummer has a practice pad, and Andy's doing vocal warm-ups, and we all warm up together playing some of the songs as a unit backstage, and it just helps us to, get into that same mindset so that we're locked in on stage.
Yeah, for sure. So once you were on stage, were you less nervous and just more excited to be playing with them?
Yeah, I was fine. Like I said before, I had spent so much time preparing at home beforehand, and then we had a few days of rehearsal as well in Los Angeles before heading to Mexico, so everything was pretty locked in, and the feeling that I had right as I walked on stage was just complete excitement, like just 10 out of 10. The first song we played was a song called Faithless.
Oh, that'd be a good one to start with too.
Yeah, it's very high energy, and it was just seriously awesome from beginning to end. I think we played about an hour and a half that night, maybe a little less than that, but I'm not kidding. The entire show felt like it lasted about 3 minutes, and I could not believe it went by so quickly.
That's good though. So do you have a most memorable moment from that show?
Yeah, the entire thing was great. If I had to pick one moment, maybe two things. There was a girl in the front row who was holding up a light up sign that said "Welcome to the band, Lonny," and that was really nice. That really warmed my heart. Another thing was that I actually have Black Veil Bride's lyrics tattooed on my arm.
Okay.
And while we were singing the song pertaining to the lyrics I have, Andy came up and grabbed my tattoo as he was singing the lyrics.
Oh, that's so cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a neat moment that we shared together. But yeah, the whole show was awesome.
So what's your favorite Black Veil Bride song to play live?
Again, it's hard to choose. I would say, though, my favorite Black Veil Bride song to perform live is probably The Legacy. Reason being is that it's one of my favorite songs of theirs, but also it has a really cool bass intro. It starts with just drums and bass, so that's fun to play as the bassist. And there's also a really cool riff in the bridge that I love doing too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before all this, like you mentioned before, you were Andy Black's guitarist for his solo music. So how did Andy meet you or find you for you to be his guitarist?
So prior to meeting Andy, I've been performing with another artist named Sean Hook for a long time. And I've done a lot with him. And I did a tour with him in 2018, I believe it was. And I was the guitarist in the band. And the drummer he hired was named Bo Evans. Now, Bo Evans had also worked with Andy in the past on his previous record cycle. So when it came time for Andy to need a new player for his band on the Ghost of Ohio tour, he reached out to Bo, the drummer, and Bo recommended me. So then I was contacted by Andy's management, and I was asked to send in an audition tape. So I recorded a video of myself playing his song We Don't Have to Dance, sent it to management. I guess they looked it over, and luckily they liked me. They liked the way I played, the way I moved around, and they asked me to join the band.
That's pretty cool. What was it like to tour with Andy though?
Touring with Andy was very fun. I feel that immediately him and I hit it off as friends. We both shared sort of a quirky personality. We're both laid back. We're both into sports. Obviously, we're both into music. I could tell right away that we would become long-term friends. And but I never in a million years dreamed that he would eventually ask me to join Black Veil Brides. But yeah, that entire solo tour was very fun. We got to play in all over the UK, Scotland, England, tons of shows in North America, and it was really a great time.
Do you have a show that stood out to you most when you played with Andy Black?
Probably when we played in London, England, would have been one of my favorites. That was the first show of our run in the UK, and it was also my first time ever performing in Europe. So it was really special for me. And it was also sold out. But, I mean, each show is special in its own regard.
Yeah.
Each venue is different. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have a favorite Andy Black song to play live?
I think the song "Ghost of Ohio" was probably my favorite of his songs to perform on that tour. I actually played synthesizer in the band as well as guitar and bass and background vocals. I was actually playing a lot of
Yeah, you're
instruments
just doing
now that I
everything
think
pretty
about it.
much.
Pretty much,
And
yeah.
you didn't even need to. You could just did everything.
Well, I definitely don't have his voice.
That's fair.
But yeah, I remember the keyboard part in that song "Ghost of Ohio" was very fun to play. So that was probably my favorite song in the set.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I saw a few videos, and it was of you playing the solo for "We Don't Have to Dance," and you just like shredded that solo. Like it seems
Thank
like
you.
it seems
Yeah.
like just a basic solo, but then you took it over and made it into a huge shred fest.
That's what I do. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, the solo on the album is actually fairly simple, and it definitely works in the song. It's very well played. But for a live context, I remember Andy telling me, he's like, "Hey, if you want to like beef up the solo and shred a little more, feel free." So I was like, "Hell yeah!" So I worked some stuff out, and I ended up doing this like sweep tap arpeggio pattern because why not?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some cool videos of it on YouTube, so I did enjoy playing that solo.
Yeah, they're super cool. And doing all the music stuff that you've done so far, whether it's with Sean Hook, Andy Black, or being a part of Black Veil Brides, do you have a favorite success in your music career so far?
Well, yeah, obviously I'm very thrilled to be a part of Black Veil Brides right now. Nothing can take that away. Super excited about that. If I were to look back on my previous accomplishments, however, I'd say that I'm very proud of the numerous televised performances I've gotten to do over the years. Notably, the Much Music Video Awards was a fun show. I got to play on the Today Show in New York, perform on Jimmy Kimmel, the Juno Awards on 2 separate occasions. I've also performed in every Canadian NHL arena in Canada except for the one in Montreal. So that's kind of something I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I'm really proud of a lot of the stuff I've done in my career so far, but in many ways I also feel like it's still just beginning.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah, for sure. When did you decide that you wanted to play guitar? Was there a specific moment that you were like, I need to learn how to play guitar?
Yeah, there was. So it was in the 7th grade, and I was 13, I believe. And there was at my school, there was a day called Retro Day, which was where students could dress up for the day, kind of like Halloween, but it was just any other day. So everyone dressed up as musicians, and it was kind of fun. And then a friend of mine actually brought his guitar to school, and I saw him playing the riff to Master of Puppets by Metallica. And this was really the first time I had really seen somebody play guitar up close, and it just struck me in a way nothing else had. And I was just in awe. And I remember going home from school that day, and I was like, "Mom, I want to start playing guitar." And right away she's like, "No way, that's never happening. Like, you're not playing guitar." And she shut it down. And I'm like, crap. But I was pretty persistent, and I kept bugging her. And then I remember I got a guitar for Christmas that year. So she finally gave in. And ever since then, it's really just been my passion, playing guitar, bass, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Music's really been one of the most important things for me.
What was your first guitar?
So my first guitar was a Squier Stratocaster, and it was actually a hand-me-down from my older stepbrother who used to play it as a teenager. So my mom grabbed that from him and kind of like, polished it up a bit, made it look as new as she could, and I just loved it. It was all I needed at the time, and I still have that guitar today, and I still play it all the time. I've put a lot of upgrades into it, so it's a lot nicer than it was at the time. But it's still the same instrument, and I feel cool that I still have it to this day.
What are some of the first songs that you learned how to play?
I remember the first riff I ever learned how to play was Thunderstruck by AC/DC. I can't sing it, but and I don't think I could play it very well. It's actually quite a difficult riff, so I was probably playing it very poorly, but that was the first thing I learned. I remember Black Dog by Led Zeppelin was another, Back in Black, Enter Sandman, Smoke on the Water. There was a website I would go to called mxtabs.net, which I don't think exists anymore, but I would go to that and just learn guitar riffs all day after school.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to learn as much as I could.
Yeah, for sure. I know that exact feeling there too.
Yeah.
So what kind of bands did you look up to musically as you were learning how to play guitar?
So as a kid, my favorite band was the Backstreet Boys, I gotta say. Great band.
Just a shredding band, hey?
Oh yeah, they're awesome. My first ever CD that I got was Chumbawamba. I get knocked down.
Yeah.
But this was before I started playing guitar. So what really got me into music, like seriously as a passion, was the band AC/DC. My dad showed me AC/DC, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. I just loved all the riffs and the solos, and the vocals were just so raw and raunchy. And that was shortly before I started playing guitar. But yeah, I really got into AC/DC, and that was why a lot of the first riffs I learned were AC/DC riffs. And apart from that, I was really into Led Zeppelin, Metallica, Jimi Hendrix, Fleetwood Mac, Van Halen, just all the classic rock bands that really defined that era. And I would check everything out. But yeah, classic rock was really what started it all for me.
Yeah, for sure. So if you got your guitar and it totally, like, nothing worked out and you hated it and you didn't like it and you weren't a musician right now, what do you think you would be?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. I think if I wasn't a musician, I would like to be a tattoo artist. Yeah, I actually got to give a tattoo once to somebody, to a tattoo artist. They let me tattoo them with their equipment, and I tattooed a pineapple, and it was super fun. You can check it out on my Instagram feed. It's deep down, but yeah, I really enjoyed tattooing, and I can draw okay. I'm not amazing, but I do feel that if I had put as much time as I have into practicing guitar, if I had put all that time into drawing ever since I was 13, I feel like I could be a decent drawer. So yeah, tattoo artist would be a cool profession, I think.
Yeah, back to that tattoo thing. Yeah, I saw an interview that you and Andy did. I believe it was in Toronto, and you guys were talking about that tattoo. That gave me a good chuckle there, that story. I was laughing at that. Yeah,
Andy loves that story. The first time I told it to him, he was on the ground just laughing his head off.
But what I find funny is when you were telling this story during this interview, Andy was just thrilled to absolutely tell it for you. Like, you would explain, like, 2 things, then Andy would be, like, 10 minutes of explaining this story.
I can't emphasize the point enough that he loves this story. Like, I remember we were on the tour bus together, and we're just chatting. I was just casually telling this story of how I got to tattoo somebody, and he just loves it. And he every time we meet a new person, he's like, "Oh, have you heard Lonny's pineapple tattoo story? I got to tell it to you." Yeah, he's a big fan.
Oh gosh. So what are some of your...
It's a good story.
Yeah, it's a funny story. What are some of your side hobbies that you do when you're not on the road and playing music?
So lately I've gotten into sculpting stone, and I'm currently working on my first one. It's an eagle. You can see that on my Instagram page right now if you'd like to check it out.
It's pretty cool.
And thank you. Yeah, so about a year or two ago, I went to Paris for the first time, and I went to the Louvre Museum. And I got to see a lot of the old sculptures there. There was some Michelangelo ones, and I was just fascinated by these pieces of art and how, different from a painting. With a sculpture, you have to approach it from a 360 degree. Like, the back has to be just as well done as the front, and they have to match up in the middle. And from my point of view, it really is the ultimate visual art form. So I wanted to give it a try, and I bought some stone, and I bought some tools, and I've just been, sculpting it. And so far it's turning out pretty good, and I'm nearly finished my first one, but I've been having a blast.
So it's like Lonny the Eagle, because your last name's Eagleton.
Yeah, nice one. You could say that. I'm into it.
Oh,
sounds great.
So after you're done this sculpture, do you know what you're going to do next?
For my second one, I'm planning on doing an elephant, I think.
That'll
It'll
look cool for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to write that in stone. No pun intended. But, I'll probably do an elephant, I think.
Yeah, it'd probably be hard, but it'd look pretty cool, for sure.
Yeah, I'm up for the challenge.
So you're very talented with doing your guitar, sculpting, and obviously with Andy Black, he did bass and keys and all that kind of stuff. Do you have any useless talents that just are absolutely useless?
I gotta say, I make a pretty mean salad dressing. So, yeah, maybe that's not useless, actually.
Mean,
but
if it's
I make a really good
if it's pretty good, I mean, it's not useless because it tastes good.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, I guess that answer doesn't really count. What else? I don't know. I would say I could moonwalk.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Kind of useless.
I'll take the moonwalk.
All right.
But if I ever see you Black Veil Brides live, I'm expecting you with your bass to be moonwalking.
Oh, don't worry. I'll make sure to bust that out.
And then try to get like Jake and Jinx to go do it too.
I was talking to Cece about it, the drummer in the band, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know how to moonwalk." And I was like, "I'll teach you." So him and I have a deal that I'm supposed to teach him how to moonwalk during a day off on tour sometime. So maybe him and I'll bust it out together on stage.
That'd be great.
We'll see.
Do you have any embarrassing moments that you've ever had on stage with anybody that you've performed with?
Yeah, so actually, when I was touring with Andy Black last summer, I almost murdered him on stage accidentally. It was horrible. So, while he's singing, he likes to suck on these lozenges.
Yeah.
Just to like soothe his throat. It helps him, it helps him sing, I guess. And right before a guitar solo that I was about to play, he walked up to me. Turns out he was just trying to walk past me, but I thought he was trying to like come and hang out and rock out with me and like go back to back or something. So I like leaned my body into him, and he wasn't expecting this. So it really like threw him off. And then I see him like stumble for a second, and then he runs off the stage, and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? Next thing I know, they're like, stop the show. We had to cut the song. The lozenge had wedged itself into his trachea, and he was choking to death on it. And there was like medics backstage, and it was all my fault. I was like, oh no, I felt so bad. But luckily, they were able to like Heimlich it out of him, and he didn't die. So that was a relief.
Obviously, he wasn't too mad about it, or else I don't think you'd be bass for Black Veil Brides right now. So I don't think he's too mad about it.
Yeah, I think he's come to terms with it now. I still feel pretty bad about it. I was certain that I would get fired right after that show, but but no, luckily it's okay, and I ended up getting a promotion instead.
Oh, there you go. So, going back to you being with Black Veil Brides, did you have any embarrassing moments during that show, or have you embarrassed yourself in front of the band when first meeting them at all?
I don't think so. I feel like everything's gone pretty smoothly so far. That first show went by without a hitch. It was one of my favorite shows I've ever played, and all the other guys agreed as well. It was one of their favorite shows they had done as well, and it was just great overall. The response from the crowd was amazing. The meet and greet went well. We all just had such a great time. And on top of that, we've worked a lot in the studio together. We've done many photo shoots together, music videos. It's all gone by very well. We just love hanging out together, and we can't wait to keep doing more of it.
Yeah, for sure. So, all the fans of Black Veil Brides seem to sure accept you as the new bassist. So how does it feel to have such a strong fan base behind the band?
Oh, it feels great. It's never easy when a band goes through a member change, but sometimes it needs to happen for the band to move on. And I feel so lucky that I was the one that they thought would be the best to fill that spot in the band. And to have such a strong support from their dedicated audience just really means the world to me. And the fact that I am one of those fans, I am a fan of the band, and also now a member of the band, I can really relate to those fans on such a close level, because I know exactly what it's like to be standing in the crowd, looking up and singing along to those songs. So it's a privilege that I definitely don't take lightly.
Yeah, for sure. And before you were a fan of the band, did you meet them like as a fan before? Like, did you ever get a meet and greet to go meet them?
No, I had not. No, my first time meeting them would have been, the first time we worked together.
So I just got one more question for you here. What would you say the biggest misconception is towards Black Veil Brides? Because I know it's either you absolutely love the band or it's usually you absolutely hate it. There's usually not an in-between.
Yeah, I've heard that too. There is a bit of that associated with the name. People either seem to be massive fans or they're not as into them. I think a large part of that in the past, when they were first starting out at least, was due to the fact that they had such an elaborate image. You know, they would have big hair and all the makeup and the studs all over. And I personally love that. And that's one of the things that drew me into the band, as I'm sure is the case for a lot of other fans who enjoy the music as well. And, you know, no matter what you're doing, there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to dislike it. And, you know, I feel like people would say the thing like, you know, if they'd spent less time doing their makeup and more time playing music, then they'd be in a better spot or whatever. But, you know, people like that, like if you feel so high and mighty that you need to put other people down in order to make yourself feel better, then, you know, I really feel sorry for people like that. But the whole message of the band has just been to do what you feel passionate about. And if you're doing something you love, people are gonna resonate with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've always stood by that message as well. So, you know, we're just gonna keep doing what we love doing, and we're gonna keep making the music we want to make, and just having a good time, hanging out as friends, making music. And if anybody wants to be a part of that, then we welcome them into it.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for doing this interview. I had a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.